Today, I'm excited to welcome Naomi, founder of Bitcoin Babies, to the podcast. Naomi is empowering mothers and nourishing infants in third world countries through Bitcoin and knowledge. Welcome to the Bitcoin Age, Naomi.
Thank you.
So, before we get to Bitcoin, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're living, where you were born.
So my name is Naomi Wamboi. I'm actually a Kenyan, born and raised, but I moved to the Netherlands 5 years ago. That was for education purposes, so I went to study. Currently, I live in Netherlands and not in Kenya, but I'm doing a project in Kenya because of my journey. I would say my journey in both countries has made me maybe venture into this project, which I'm gonna discuss further.
Great. Well, before we get to your project, tell us about your Bitcoin journey. Did you find out about Bitcoin in the Netherlands, or did you know about Bitcoin before you went there?
Yeah, I actually had no idea what Bitcoin was because, okay, I had heard a little bit about cryptocurrencies, but not Bitcoin itself. So I remember I moved to the Netherlands, and a few years, my first year in the Netherlands, I met my partner, and he's a diehard Bitcoiner. So I would say the first years of dating, he really tried to introduce me to Bitcoin, but to me, he seemed like he was in a kind of a Ponzi scheme. So he had kept his money somewhere waiting for it to gain value. So that is how it felt to me. And I never paid attention, I would say, but I remember he made small transactions to me back 19, where he was trying to teach me Bitcoin and how to really make small transactions. But then it was on Telegram. I don't remember what it used to be called, but I remember recently I saw those sats he had sent to me, and it was so funny. So I would say I never paid attention to it at that point, but in 2023, I would say from 2022, end of 2022 to the beginning of 2023, I was pregnant. I developed complications, so I had to stay home. At this time, I had so much time in my hands and really ventured into understanding this new thing that my partner was trying to teach me. At the same time, I would say I was going through pregnancy, and with the complications, I received a kind of care that really stood out to me as compared to what women get in Kenya. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish every woman would have an opportunity to have this kind of care, not only during pregnancy and even after, that there is someone you can talk to and someone to really take care of your mental well. So because of these two coming into my life at the same time, I thought of a way I could make the journey easier for women back at home, and that would be working with them for the first year of their child's life. So we come together, we learn about infant nutrition. At the same time, we take care of each other mentally because postpartum journey can be difficult. And at the same time, we can use Bitcoin as a tool of empowerment because Bitcoin, when you understand it, it's very empowering. So that is my
Yes,
story.
it
Yeah.
absolutely is. So, when your partner was trying to teach you about Bitcoin, what was it that really got you to understand how important Bitcoin was?
For me, I would say it's more of the opportunities that Bitcoin offers. Let me give you a backstory. At the beginning, I had started with women because for me, I really wanted to teach women about nutrition, and also we talk about mental wellness to really make that journey easy. But at the beginning, I had started with a group of young girls, so they were under 18, and that means they had no access to M-Pesa because when you need your ID to register an M-Pesa SIM card, or you need your ID to open a bank account. But for them, it was not possible and they had to rely on someone else. But when you look at Bitcoin, it offered them an opportunity to really have access to the financial world without needing to rely on someone else. Maybe I need to explain this further because maybe you don't understand. Then why are Bitcoin transactions important? As part of my project, I had decided to give the women $5 weekly. So this money was meant to purchase immediate needs for your child or even save for your child's future. So I needed a channel that I could make these transactions very, very easy, and that the woman can actually have the money on their hands. The only way I could do it is with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin enables you to access finance without needing to maybe KYC on a simple Bitcoin wallet.
So, really, you got into using Bitcoin because of the ease of use more than for the inflation or the store of value. Really, for you, it was the ease of use for this project that you're doing to help women be healthier during pregnancies and with babies.
Yes, I say ease of use is one, but I also understand like Bitcoin also offers other things that you're able to keep the value, to maintain your value because it's less deflationary, and it offers a little bit like you don't the KYC thing. So I would say it's more of the ease of use and the opportunity for them to keep the value for their money of their money.
Yes, because I'm sure in Kenya you are also experiencing inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inflation is quite high. It's been going up the last couple of months, but recently the government said inflation has reduced. But if you ask people, they actually have no money. They're saying, okay, the government says we are performing well, but where is the money? Because people don't really have the money in their hands.
Right. In situations like that, we all feel like we're on a treadmill because you keep earning money, but it's very hard to save any extra.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about this. I'm going to call it peer to peer, but you were explaining to me how you pay somebody with a phone number and you mentioned the SIM card. So that is a way that people are paying each other in Kenya. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go back to Bitcoin babies.
So I would say because maybe we have not driven adoption to a point where people actually accept peer-to-peer transactions through the Lightning Network. There are people who know about it, but when they are not like it's not easy to introduce someone to Bitcoin, especially in Kenya, because I would say like for me, for example, when I was starting, there was a whole issue with the world coin. I think you heard that people went to scan their eyes and they got something in return. So people thought it was kind of, we'll think it's a kind of the same thing, or maybe it's a scam. So I would say for a merchant who is comfortable with accepting Bitcoin, you can already do transaction on Lightning. But for those who don't know or have very little knowledge about Bitcoin, you can transact through an app like Tando. Tando, you pay the merchant. Whoever accepts M-Pesa is able to accept Bitcoin because you are able to pay the merchants on their phone number using Tando, because Tando connects you to your Lightning wallet directly, and you are able to create an invoice and pay. But I would say Tando has really been an advantage because right now I just go pay someone in Bitcoin and tell them, through Tando, they received it on their M-Pesa, but they don't know you actually paid them in Bitcoin. Then you can just tell someone, hey, I paid you in Bitcoin. And then that generates a kind of interest. You see people asking, okay, what is this Bitcoin? How can I use it? And what is it? Yeah, a lot of people actually know Bitcoin but lack just that information. So Tando is a perfect way to introduce people to Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way. And I
Yeah,
saw a video on your X of you going into a village and paying with your phone with Tando.
yeah. It's actually on last week. Yeah, I did because I wanted to purchase a bag of sugar. I didn't have Kenyan shillings on me, but I know, hey, I can easily use Tando and pay them with my Bitcoin, and they won't know I actually paid them in Bitcoin unless I tell them. Because you really take that opportunity to explain to someone, hey, I paid you in Bitcoin, and then you see them getting curious and they want to know how can you actually pay me in Bitcoin. So yeah, that's really nice.
But just to be clear, so people understand, you pay them in Bitcoin and they receive the money in Kenyan shillings for now.
For now, they don't understand that you're paying them in Bitcoin unless you tell them. But I hope the Tando team will maybe create a kind of a message that notifies the merchants that you actually paid them in Bitcoin.
Well, I give you a lot of credit because, as you know, many people in the Western world don't like to spend their Bitcoin, but there are many countries, and Kenya being one of them, South Africa another, and Nigeria, that are using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, which is where many of our people who we admire, like Jeff Booth, says Bitcoin needs to become a medium of exchange. So that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I would say I have an experience of both. Transacting in first world countries is easy and you are not charged anything. While as you compare us in Africa, so if you make transactions from bank to bank or M-Pesa to M-Pesa, you're paying like, is it 10%? No, it's 3% transaction fees. So you see that is quite high. And if you're looking at the Lightning Network, you really make small transaction to zero to no fees. So I feel like that is why you see more people, even merchants, shifting to accepting Bitcoin more as compared to our traditional medium of exchange.
Right, to avoid the fees. That's
Yeah,
the next step.
yeah.
So tell us a little more about Bitcoin Babies. Is it a charity? Do you get donations or how does it work?
Bitcoin babies, we've gotten more, I would say it's a foundation. And everything we have done has been from donations, which I really appreciate our supporters. So I will maybe dive a little into Bitcoin babies. So Bitcoin babies, we work with moms with kids under the age of 1. So I would say our primary focus is still infant nutrition and mental wellness postpartum, but also using Bitcoin as a tool of empowerment. So we have classes every week on Sunday today, as we are recording this podcast. And we come together with my group of 10 women. It's 10 women this year. I started in April during the Bitcoin halving, and we will go with them up to next year around March. So we meet every Sunday. We talk about maybe the issues we are facing, and maybe sometimes we have small courses like entrepreneurship, business skills, family planning. We are very holistic. We also teach Bitcoin. We teach the moms how to use wallet, how to open, maybe to be a self custody, how to the little bit things about Bitcoin. And we also teach infant nutrition, so we discuss on maybe things we should feed our babies and what is important to look at when taking care of your kids, because some women might have access to this information, some might not. That would be the explanation of Bitcoin Baby. So I would say I've divided it into 3 sections. I have a book. It's a small book that teaches you. Maybe the first part is about infant nutrition. Then we have a financial wellness part where I teach Bitcoin. And then we have the last part, which is mental wellness. Then we have the program. So the program is where I follow a group of 10 women for 1 year, giving them $5 every week. They can purchase for immediate needs for their kid, or also store the Bitcoin. And then I have the third part, which is the grant. So we are giving the women small grants where they can open small businesses or maybe take a course to get yourself to the next step.
How wonderful. And
Yeah.
how do you choose the woman that you are going to be working with?
The first time I asked the women, I had a manager on ground who went to a kind of a clinic, which is also part of our circular economy. It's a doctor who accepts Bitcoin. And she was able to, through the doctor, to get a group of 10 new moms. So that was when I was starting. So that wasn't very easy because you understand how people are skeptical when you're starting something like that. But at the moment, I have a big group asking to join the project, and I can only manage 10. So, what we have done, I've created a form where they can scan a QR code and maybe make an application with a few questions. So, they answer what their interests and why they would choose to join such a project. So, that is the plan moving forward.
Wonderful. And do you plan to grow into other countries?
Yeah, actually, I'm hoping next year to also go to another country and start a similar project as the one we have in Kimbo, the area we are in. So I would like to. Initially, the plan was I start my own circular economy, but at the moment there are so many circular economies, and for me, I see having these women who receive $5 weekly as really a catalyst for a circular economy, because you have matchup and then you have these moms who are accepting Bitcoin, and there's so much association, good association with women who are actually trying to maybe understand finance and make purchases in Bitcoin. I've seen that personally in the circular economy I'm working with. You can see husbands getting curious, other women are getting curious. They're asking, what is this? What is this group of women you're working with? What are you guys doing? So I see myself moving to another country and also doing the same. I'm already in contact with a few people. I don't know which one I'll choose, but I'm really working towards that, and you will see it next year, maybe around March.
Wonderful. And do you have to be in Kenya to meet with these women, or do you meet online?
Everything we do it remote, but I have a person who works, so I have a local manager here who helps me to manage the women because sometimes it can be difficult. I would say everything is remote at the moment, but this year I'm still in Kenya at the moment. I'm still working with the women in person as of now.
Wonderful. So, how has Bitcoin changed you?
For me, I would say it has changed me a lot and my view on the world and money in general. Now I have more respect for money. I can actually, because when you have Bitcoin, also maybe I maybe on this I'm more on the Western part because I'm more of a holder. I prefer to hold my Bitcoin, but now when I'm Kenya, I can make transactions. But when I'm in another country, I prefer to hold. And it has really changed how I view money and how what really money means and actually freedom. Because for me, I remember I came from Netherlands. For the first time, I came to Africa without needing to exchange euros to Kenyan shillings. Do you understand like how much freedom that like you need to pass through the airport and not actually tell how much money you have. You just come in and you can spend your money here. I would say also it has, I would say, Bitcoin and motherhood. I feel like me becoming a mom was more of searching a better world because we want to live a better world for our kids, a world that is more free and it's equal. So that would be it.
That makes sense. Do you
Yeah.
think that Bitcoin will help equal the playing field for Africans and African countries? Because as you said, you come from Europe. Now you have, the euro. It's much easier to transact because it's a stronger currency than many African countries. But Bitcoin is going to equalize even more.
Yeah, but I feel like, okay, in my opinion, I feel like there are people who are already ahead in the Bitcoin. Like you might find someone who is already holding a lot. But if we have a decentralized kind of money, which is Bitcoin, then I feel like it's gonna give more freedom. And pardon, can you ask your question again?
Do you
Yeah.
think that Bitcoin will equalize the playing field for countries like Kenya? And let me expand a little bit because now we have a currency, a
Mm-hmm.
money that anybody can opt into when they are ready. You know how we say in Bitcoin, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, which is a little harsh because a lot of people don't know about it. But do you think that it could help some African countries because at least we're not so reliant on the US dollar or the euro?
Yeah, because I would say it will kind of hold, but also dependent on the governments on when they really choose to venture in. Because I feel like we've really made steps in the Bitcoin world, and there are countries which are very ahead in terms of Bitcoin adoption. Of actually, I would say it has more opportunity because if you see as now, maybe for us we borrow loans in dollars and we operate in Kenyan shillings and we have to pay those loans in dollars. But if you have something like Bitcoin, it's kind of equal because we don't need to pay those kind of loans back in dollars, but we can actually, we have a world currency that is equal to everyone. I don't understand much of the euro versus Kenyan shillings, but I know the little information I know it's possible for a country like US to just print dollars and give us dollars.
You know, what they say is that the US dollar being the reserve currency of the world,
Yeah.
they say that people closest to the money printer, so closest to the US dollar, the people in
Hmm.
government there, the people in the Federal Reserve, and people closest to the money printer earn the most and get the most benefit from that money printing. And the countries that are, like you said, borrowing money, they are very much at a disadvantage. So if we can move
Yeah.
to a Bitcoin standard one day, it will be better for the whole world.
Yeah, when we have a world currency, other than having a country like US print money and give us that money. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think are some of the challenges that Kenyan women face to understanding Bitcoin?
I will start this one by giving you a story. At the beginning of my project, I remember there's a woman we approached. We asked her if she wanted to be part of our program. And we started with her a few weeks in, and we were sending her the $5. Let me tell you, the husband came to ask, asking, why are you giving this woman money? Why don't you give that money directly to me? And he really attacked my local manager that it made it impossible for that woman to participate in our project. That was one of the problems that really stood out for me, because you really understand how difficult it is for women, even when we are having our meetings every Sunday, because their husbands are probably sitting there. You see, like they lack they don't want to express themselves, or even they don't want to tell the men they are learning about something like Bitcoin, because you want to hide this small money you have, or maybe if you buy Bitcoin, you want to keep it to yourself without having the man really denying you that opportunity. Other than that, having partners who make it impossible for women, I would say access to internet. Sometimes you see there's a lot of difficulties and they don't have access to internet, maybe even impossible for them to join our meetings. I also heard some women, maybe this is not important to mention, maybe you don't even have a cell phone that you can actually join our Google meeting. That is when you're really teaching them remote. But I think when you're teaching them physically, it would be another case. But I think for you to really learn about Bitcoin, you need to have that physical use. You have to make those transactions and maybe have access to wallets. And for that, you need maybe a mobile phone. So those are some of these challenges I've faced when trying to teach women about Bitcoin.
You mentioned some of the scams that the WorldCoin scam. I don't know much about WorldCoin and who scanned the irises, but those kind of things are happening. And then people get skeptical, especially if they've either lost money or been scammed.
Yeah, the first thing, people, it's not easy to trust someone with your money, which I completely understand. So people have that difficulties of, hey, are you scamming me? Or are you gonna maybe scan my body part, or maybe sell my ID or somewhere? But when you start to teach them, they see, okay, I don't even actually need to know your real name. You just need to create a wallet with a name you feel comfortable with. I don't need to know that. And actually, I would say another problem when you're trying to teach women Bitcoin is when maybe someone is living on maybe $1 or $3 a day, and you need that money instantly. Maybe you have received it as a transaction or as a payment. You need that money instantly. You cannot afford to be affected by the Bitcoin fluctuation. So that is also an issue.
So some of the women that you are helping are actually only living on $1 a day. Are these the type of women that you're trying to help?
I would say I have a diverse group. So you have women who are married, I have single moms, you have maybe someone living an average Kenyan life, then you have somebody who is living maybe on less than $1 a day. I would say it's a little bit diverse. I've tried to diversify than leaning on one side, because everybody needs to hear the good news about Bitcoin. Yeah.
So for you, Is it about, I know you had a baby and you want to help mothers access what you had access to. So is this your purpose and passion? Is that why you got into it?
Yeah, I am very passionate about babies having a good start in life because I know how you start your life can have long-term effects on you. And actually having a mom who is also financially empowered can make it easy for you. Maybe it comes also from my own personal experience growing up. I've witnessed a lot of issues for kids. Maybe I would give you an example. Like when I was young, I also had complications with issues like if somebody had taught my mom something about it, that would not have been an issue for me. And it makes me so sad that at this day and age, I still see women with a similar issue. Like you see a child who is not able to stand at the age of 1 year because they lack calcium, and somebody should have taught these women something. So I'm very passionate about teaching these women and also coming together and taking care of our mental well postpartum, because I also understand how difficult that can get as a mom myself.
Yeah, that makes sense since you've been through it. So, what does freedom mean to you?
For me, what does freedom mean to me? For me, I would say freedom to me means having access to opportunities. That would be freedom to me, because I see how much I have changed.
You mentioned freedom earlier, and you said coming into the country from the Netherlands gave you a sense of freedom because you didn't have to worry about money.
Yeah. Okay. If you talk about financial wise, because freedom is a broad word, maybe if you specify on financial freedom, I would say this is a very big problem in Africa, that people struggle to even know where their next meal is gonna come from. I feel like when I went to Europe, I understood what freedom is, because I can see people living without worrying where their next meal is going to come from. Because let's be honest, that's a very big issue in Kenya. People are not fighting to live in big houses. People are not fighting to maybe to have a big business. You're just trying to make your ends meet, that at the end of the day, I have a meal, or at the end of the month, I'm able to pay my rent, which is maybe even less than $20. For me, I've really understood what either having freedom when it comes to money, and having opportunities to be able to create that money.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I too I live in the Western world and I'm in South Africa now. And
Hmm.
as you know, in every country there's lots of people who have lots of money and there's people who don't. And yesterday I went to Mandela's house.
Hmm.
And there's still a lot of people struggling here in South Africa, even though a lot of
Hmm.
things have changed. And I do my best to help the people I can that come across my path. But, giving somebody money or buying their goods helps, but it's more important what you're doing in education. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like giving people money without maybe them knowing the value of money or knowing what to actually do with money, we are not getting there. That is why I try to teach them how to actually manage a business and to obtain the perfect Bitcoin business skills. And at the same time, maybe having them, after you have taught them something, I give them something small and tell them, take this, do something that you can actually generate or create maybe an income for yourself. And I've seen like a woman who opened a small kiosk, where is it called a kiosk, where she sells mandazis and chapatis, and she's actually happy because she's making a living as compared to before. That is how I feel like we should teach, maybe create that opportunity for them, and then also maybe help them to get that far they can actually generate their own income.
Yes, that's we say teach a man to fish, teach a woman to fish is much more valuable. And we spoke about Wangui before because she's also from Kenya. And what she does is help people accept Bitcoin in Kenya. So there's so many wonderful people doing wonderful things, but we need to get the word out more. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to know one more thing. What else do you teach in your Bitcoin course? What knowledge do you start people with?
I start with maybe teaching them about the history of money, that they understand a little bit of the history, and then we dive into the basic Bitcoin. So these are what Bitcoin is, how to make small transactions, and what you can do with Bitcoin. And we also have the expert where we dive into mining, because that I feel like it's another world if you're not very technical. But I have also, I don't teach myself, so I also have maybe someone who is teaching, like the core M21 teaches in Kenya, and he's a he, and he taught my women about Bitcoin. For me, I focus on other things like nutrition and maybe entrepreneurship. And
And are there
actually,
any
maybe you might not know this, we also have merchants. So we have a circular economy going on there. So we also have merchants who are actually accepting Bitcoin. Is a little bit of what Bit Biashara does, helping merchants accept Bitcoin. So we have 10 merchants who are active, but we have 16 in total. You can see them on Google Maps. This is where maybe the $5 I give the women, they can practically make transactions in Bitcoin, because you have to have that theory, but also you have to have practical use of Bitcoin.
So you teach these women where also they can spend their Bitcoin.
Maybe I can give you maybe a story of how maybe the circular economy got in. So when we started, I was already giving the women those $5, and for them to actually spend it, they needed to exchange to fiat currency. But I wanted to make it easy for them to actually make those transactions maybe in Bitcoin without needing to exchange, because exchange it can be also be complex, because you have to KYC, you have to understand that part, but it was also before Tando came in. So we onboarded merchants. So we went to merchant. We had, hey, I have these women. They receive $5 a week, and I would love them to come to your shop and maybe make purchases in your shop, but in Bitcoin. So we got merchants who accept. So we have maybe, and it's a really a bit diversified, because we have a medical center, we have a chemist, we have a butchery, we have a supermarket, a mini market, we have a salon, we have where you can purchase your beauty products, to make it easy that any woman who has $5, you really don't need to exchange it to fiat. You can just go to a merchant and buy in Bitcoin. So we have a circular economy going on there. I think you can see a bit of it on our Twitter page.
How much do you focus on the price of Bitcoin? As you know, we reached 100,000. That was a big milestone for many. How
Mhm.
much do you focus on that?
At the beginning, I would say I used to check every day what was the value of Bitcoin, but now that has really changed, because I've been in the Bitcoin space for quite long, and I also understand how really Bitcoin goes. You must be excited that you're on 100K, and maybe you wait a bit, a few months in, we go back to CK. So I think if you focus on it a lot, it will break your heart. But I also look forward to spending more when Bitcoin is a little bit higher. I remember this year after the halving, there was a lot of prediction that it will go to 150K or even 200K. That hasn't happened, but I know when it reaches 100K, at least I have made way more profit out of it. I wouldn't say it's profit. Uh, Value for my money has grown. Let's use that. That is the right term. And then you can spend more. So at the beginning, it was bad checking every day. Now I just relax and let Bitcoin do what Bitcoin has to do.
So, besides a store of value, what else do you love about Bitcoin?
It would be, that is number one, storing my value, because I feel like when value for my money is there, I can achieve more freedom, because I can be able to also purchase more. And also the fact that freedom. Okay, I said store value and freedom really stands out for me. That I mentioned again that I could come to this country without needing to exchange euros. I have never felt so free in my life. Bitcoin in general gives you a lot of freedom.
Do you have a favorite book or podcasts that you listen to learn about Bitcoin?
There's this book by Anita Posh. It's Learners. Is it called Learners? I forgot. That is the book I've used to polish all the parts I didn't understand about Bitcoin, because she explains it in a very simple way that is easy for anyone to understand.
Wonderful. I haven't read that book, but you've reminded me, and I am going to look into it because I know Anita is very knowledgeable on African countries and especially Zimbabwe, where I'm from. So, yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
and
for
she
mentioning that.
explained it. She does not use very complicated English language. You can just understand it. And the way she explains it, she's really giving you that explanation in a way you can comprehend it very well.
Where can people find you and where can you accept donations?
We have our own page on our own website, bitcoinbabies.com. So you can also directly make donations to us. We are also on Geyser. You can easily make donations to us. And in terms of social medias, you can find us on X at btcbabies.com. We also on Twitter, t.btcbabies, and we are also on Instagram with the same handle at btcbabies.
Well, I will post some of those links below.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
thank you so much for joining me today. Keep up the wonderful work.
Thank you.